Alright, this topic's called solving linear or quadratic equations when there's no linear term. The linear term just means that there's no plain x in it. Quadratic terms, I don't want to get too technical, but quadratic equations can have up to 3 components, such as this. We're talking about, in this video, when this piece here is missing, because it's a little bit easier to solve these types of quadratic equations. You don't need the quadratic formula. Generally, you can't factor. So we're going to just tackle this topic when this term is missing. There's no plain x, just an x squared, maybe a couple numbers. We're going to just do some undoing. Alright, so just as a quick review, the opposite of adding is subtracting. The opposite of subtracting is adding, obviously. The opposite of multiplying is dividing, and vice versa. And then one thing people sometimes forget is that the opposite of squaring something is to square root it. So that's how we're going to be, as we undo things, when we get to the part where we see an x squared and we need to undo that squaring, we're going to square root something. I'm not going to go into, in this video, exactly what the square root means and how to find all that stuff. I'm just going to say that you can use your calculator if you don't know your square roots. That'd probably be the best thing for this video. So the first example we have be pretty straightforward. X squared equals 49. When we look at this side of the equation, the only thing that we have going on with that x squared is squaring it. So promptly we're just going to undo that squaring by square rooting both sides of our equation. And technically what we're doing, again, I'm not going to get super technical in here, but when we have an x squared equal a number, we can possibly get 2 roots for that. And the 2 roots that we can get is 7. Everyone usually recognizes that 7 times 7 is 49, but we can also get negative 7, because negative 7 times negative 7 is also a positive 49. So we have 2 roots here. If you can get at least the positive 7, then that's probably half the battle right there. It depends on what level math that you're taking right now that you need this advice for, whether you need to know the positive 7 or both positive and negative 7. Alright, I'm going to move on to another example here. Let's see. Okay, next example, we're going to just kick it up a slight notch. For this example, we're going to have 5x squared equals 500. So we need to look at the x squared, and before we would undo the squaring, we need to worry about this 5. We need to undo whatever that 5 is doing to the x squared. So the 5 is multiplying with the x squared, we undo that by dividing. Of course, what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. Our 5's will cancel out to 1 there. We don't usually write the 1. And now we do 500 divided by 5, which will give us 100. And now this is a lot like the problem we were just doing on the previous slide, where we just undo the squaring by square rooting both sides. Alright, when you square root x squared, you just get an x. When you square root 100, you can get positive 10 or negative 10. And actually, I'm not sure, I didn't mention this in the last slide, but you can write both of those answers at the same time by this, the plus and minus sign. So you're telling people that the x can be plus and minus 10. So if you haven't seen that before, that's what it means. Alright, let's try another one. Again, I'll keep this one kind of run-of-the-mill, just to kind of keep it simple for now. We'll kick it up a little bit more on the next one. X squared plus 10 equals 46. Again, we want to isolate the x squared, so that means we need to boot that 10 out of here and get it to the other side. The 10 is being added, so we undo addition by subtracting it. Double check. Positive 10 minus 10 goes to 0. That's exactly what we wanted to have happen. We go over to the other side of the equation where we have to also subtract 10. So now we have an equation of x squared equals 36. So the last thing that we need to do to solve this equation is to undo the squaring. By now you've heard me say it a couple times. We undo squaring by square rooting, and we'll get that x is equal to plus and minus 6, because 6 times 6 is 36, and negative 6 times negative 6 is also 36. Alright, let's kick it up a bit more of a notch, and this will probably be as difficult as I get for today. And we'll do 2 examples like this one. So let's start with 2x squared minus 7. Let's set that equal to 11. Alright, again, our task is to first isolate the x squared so that then we can undo it by square rooting. That means we have 2 things to get rid of. We need to get rid of the 2, and we need to get rid of the 7. Traditional algebraic algorithms teach us that we'll get rid of that 7 first. The 7 is being subtracted, so we undo subtraction by adding. So negative 7 plus 7 goes away. That's what we wanted. So the x squared is a little bit more isolated, but not quite entirely yet. 11 plus 7 gave us the 18 on the right-hand side. So as I said, there's still something that's in the way of the x squared being by itself, and it's the 2. The 2 is multiplying with the x squared, so we undo that by dividing. And x squared will equal 18 divided by 2 gives us a positive 9. Finally, the last step to undo the squaring, we square root it, and the square root of 9 is positive 3 or negative 3. Alright, I'm going to do one more example. If you want, what you might do is copy down the problem and try it on your own, and then hit play and see if you have this tackled. So the problem is negative 4x squared plus 3 equals negative 13. And again, just one by one, you just tackle the things that you want to undo. We're going to start with getting rid of the 3. The 3 is being added, so we undo that by subtracting. That will cancel out, so now we have a negative 4x squared remaining on that side. Over to the right, we have a negative 13 minus 3. That will give us a negative 16. Our next task is to get rid of the negative 4, which is multiplying with the x squared. We undo multiplication by dividing. Those will cancel out. And then on the right-hand side, negative 16 divided by a negative 4 will give us a positive 4. The last thing we have to do now is to undo the squaring. We do that by square rooting. And if we square root of 4, we can get positive and negative 2. Alright, I hope this helped. Email me if you have some questions or you feel ways that I can improve this video. Thank you.